Friends, I'm Abdul Basit. Assalamu alaikum, and you're watching Kaleidoscope. Today, I would like to commend the New York Times International Edition for publishing an article on Kashmir under caption "Kashmir's Poets Stifle Their Verses in Grip of India Crackdown." This is written by Samir Yasir. I cannot read the entire article, but let me read to you a few paragraphs which would give you the idea as to what is happening in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Referring to a poet, Mr. Yasir says that, and he is quoting that poet, "In the last 30 years, I have never seen this kind of suppression. There is silence everywhere, as if the silence is the best cure for our present crisis. Indian forces now keep the largely Muslim region under a tight grip. New Delhi poured additional soldiers into Kashmir 2 years ago, as it stripped the region of about 8 million people of its semi-autonomy. In cracking down on free expression, the authorities have muzzled poets, practitioners of a centuries-long tradition. 3 Kashmiri poets told the New York Times that they had been questioned recently for hours by police officers for speaking to journalists. In interviews, more than a dozen others said increased surveillance had left them with no choice but to stop writing resistance poetry or force them to read it in places far from the gazing eyes of the agents of the state. We are not allowed to breathe until and unless we breathe as per the rules and the wishes of the government," said Zabira, a Kashmiri poet who uses only one name. "The silencing of voices, the freedom to speak and vent grievances, all is gone, and it is suffocating." Ms. Zabira now takes inspiration from Kashmir's military checkpoints, bristling with soldiers and endless roadblocks. Journalists are told what to write, and some have been barred from flying out of the country. The police have threatened to slap anti-terrorism charges on reporters who tweet about conditions. Since 2019, more than 2,300 people have been jailed under stringent sedition and anti-terrorism laws, which criminalized such activities as raising slogans or posting political messages on social media, according to one Indian media outlet. So, dear friends, this is the situation, and this is not the whole story of the people of occupied Jammu and Kashmir. But I am glad that this piece got a space in an international newspaper, and one hopes that other international newspapers, magazines of reputation would also be focusing more and more on the plight of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Here I would also like to, I have been Pakistan's High Commissioner to India and I can assure my Indian friends that Pakistan never wished ill to India. We always wanted India to also prosper, stabilize, but unfortunately India continues to show arrogance of its power. You cannot really continue suppressing and defenestrate the aspirations of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. It is, both Pakistan and India, we all know, are committed under several UN Security Council resolutions to hold a plebiscite in order to determine whether the people of Jammu and Kashmir would like to join India or Pakistan. So my suggestion to my Indian friends would be that don't compare or draw comparison between, and there is no comparison, it is as simple as that, between the Jammu and Kashmir and other parts of India, if there is militancy, insurgency going on in other parts of Indian states, it has nothing to do with Jammu and Kashmir, because it's altogether a different dispute. And India itself took the matter to the United Nations in 1948. So it was India which has now kind of backtracked. So my suggestion would be that, and then it is also in the interest of India to settle this dispute as soon as possible, if India were to realize its regional and global aspirations. Because without having peace in the region, in its backyard, India cannot realistically think of achieving all it wants to achieve at the global and regional levels. India needs to settle this issue in its own interest. If such pieces appear on India, one can imagine how Indians take it. Because this does not reflect. This reflects poorly on Indian democracy as well. And one would wish that India now understands the reality, understands that the dynamics of the occupied Kashmir. It can strip of Jammu and Kashmir of its special status, but it cannot transform or change the hearts and minds of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. The people of Jammu and Kashmir have shown during the last 74 years that they would never give up their right to self-determination. They will never capitulate. They will never surrender. So if that is the case, then it would serve even India's interest to settle this dispute as quickly as possible. It is high time for India to reach out to Pakistan with the sincerity of purpose. Otherwise, Pakistan would not like to engage with India just for the heck of it. It is important that both the countries sit across the table, and the first thing is to settle this issue, because without settling this issue according to aspirations of the people of Kashmir, there is simply no possibility of Pakistan, India building bridges of trust. This I have seen during my stint in India, and I'm convinced that this is the issue or dispute between our two countries. Without its settlement, there is simply no possibility of Pakistan and India moving towards normalization. It is out of question. So if India wants itself to develop, to realize its potential, and put this region on an irreversible trajectory of peace and prosperity, this dispute needs to be resolved. And I once again thank the New York Times for publishing this story and giving it importance that it deserves. Thank you very much for watching Kaleidoscope.